What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Shifting Lanes. My name is Hanson, and for this video you find me sitting in the 2023 Honda HR-V. This is the EXL trim, so it comes equipped with a better tech and has more luxury features. This one is painted in the premium Nordic Forest color with a black interior, and all in with the all-wheel drive system and delivery. You can get this spec for $30,590. And in this video, I'll give you my likes and dislikes about Honda's redesigned subcompact crossover so that you have a better idea before you buy. Let's begin this review on the outside. This new HR-V is now bigger, wider, and longer. If you think cars get bigger and bigger over the years, this is proof of exactly that. The wheelbase is longer by 1.7 inches, the overall length increased by 9.4 inches, and both the front and rear track widened by 2.2 and 2.6 inches respectively. The result is an HR-V that looks more like an athletic crossover. The hood is longer, and the front end changes make this HR-V, in my opinion, one of the more attractive subcompact crossovers on the market right now. The grille is modestly sized by today's standards, and it looks good with the gloss black honeycomb inserts. The LED headlights have a clean and straightforward design, and the lower portion of the bumper have a more rugged appearance. Around the side, the HR-V has a sharper looking profile compared to the previous gen. The belt line is more horizontal, and it stretches along the length of the crossover, giving it a slender and more grounded look. This being the EXL model, you'll find a lot more gloss black trim, like here at the wheel arches and also surrounding the windows. And at the rear, the HR-V looks bigger and more grown up with its simpler LED taillights. There's more gloss black trim at the rear bumper, and the rear window is more sloped for that athletic look. Overall, this redesign makes the HR-V look more attractive than the previous generation, and going bigger might be a good change if Honda wants to stay competitive in this populated subcompact crossover segment. Moving inside, there's plenty of changes in here as well, and it's all trending towards a more clean and simple design. So yes, it now looks like the redesigned Honda Civic's interior. The most noticeable feature being this honeycomb panel that spans along the dash. I think this is a great look because it integrates the vents into the trim, and it reduces visual clutter, giving it a more minimalist look. The HVAC control knobs and buttons look like they were grabbed right out of the Civic, as well as this 9-inch infotainment system. Now, if you look at the previous Honda infotainment system, they were all hot garbage. It looked ugly, they were slow to respond, and the menu system was kind of confusing. But that's not the case here. This infotainment software is so much better. It looks clean and sharp, and the performance is pretty solid. It's also not confusing, as the menu system is more straightforward. There's also physical buttons on this display, and the volume knob is present. And most importantly for me, this unit comes with wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. The 7-inch touchscreen unit, which is found in the LX and the Sport trims, only has the wired version of those smartphone integration tools. Also new here is the digital instrument cluster. It's not fully digital, as the speedometer is still analog, but the left 2/3 of the cluster is a 7-inch full color display. Here you'll find plenty of information about your car sensors and metrics. I'm a big fan of these modern digital displays because you can do some really neat things with them. For example, in some Hyundais, if you turn on the blinker, there's something really cool that happens on the digital display. So if you want to see what that's about, click the link up here. Oh, and by the way, if you're liking this video so far, please consider hitting that like, subscribe, and that notification bell buttons so that you can be notified anytime we make a new video. Now, the next thing I like about this car is this floating center console. Not only is there a storage compartment underneath, but there's also 2 USB connections that's more out of the way. So if you have your phone plugged in, you don't have to have excess cables getting in the way of everything. You can just tuck them underneath. This model also comes with a wireless charger, and that accompanies the wireless CarPlay and wireless Android Auto well. I also like the visibility out of the HR-V. The A-pillars are slimmer, and I like the fact that the side view mirrors are mounted on the door so it doesn't block a lot of the view. As for the seats, they're heated and they're leather. And the driver's side has an 8-way power adjustment, while the passenger side is fully manual. Overall, not a bad place to sit for long drives, as this is pretty comfortable. Moving to the second row, the rear legroom is not too bad at 37.7 inches. You'd think with the wheelbase and overall length changes that there would be more room, but this actually shrank compared to the previous HR-V. The cargo area also didn't see a dramatic change in space. Behind the second row, it's very similar compared to before at 24.4 cubic feet. And then fold the second row down and you can access up to 55.1 cubic feet. That's slightly smaller than before. So this car got bigger, but then also smaller. Now, most importantly, how does this Honda HR-V drive? Powering this subcompact crossover is a 2-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine, and that makes 158 horsepower and 138 pound-feet of torque. Those are very Civic numbers, and that makes sense because this is the same exact engine that the base Civic uses. And this car being about 300 pounds heavier than the Civic, this engine just feels very mismatched and undersized for this vehicle. To get the most performance out of this thing, you'll be spending lots of time in the higher RPMs. It doesn't help that this transmission is a CVT, which is great for commutes and efficiency, but from a fun-to-drive perspective, this is pretty lackluster. Accelerating from a standstill, the HR-V has a pretty slow pace with a 0 to 60 time in the 8 to 9 second range. Add another passenger and that task becomes a little bit more difficult. It might actually be a minute if you have this car fully loaded with passengers and their stuff. Other subcompact crossovers with more power, a turbocharger, and also a livelier transmission are more exciting to drive when it's getting up to speed. This HR-V seems more content with the long, steady state stuff like driving on the highways, which this car actually doesn't do too bad, as this all-wheel drive model gets 25 city, 30 highway, and 27 miles per gallon combined. Without the all-wheel drive system, you can get up to 26 city and 32 miles per gallon in the highway. Handling-wise, this HR-V benefits from the chassis upgrades. You see, Honda gave different elements from the Civic and the CR-V to this car, so therefore the chassis is stronger and stiffer. The geometrical changes like the increased track width and the longer wheelbase, they also improve the overall driving experience. It's actually fun to drive this on the back roads. The suspension feels more on the firm side, and there's not much body roll as you go through the twisties. This feels more like a Civic than a CR-V. The ride quality could be a little bit better, but I'm not going to complain too much considering that this is a fairly lightweight car and also the wheelbase is also fairly short. So to make this a more compliant ride is going to take away from the fun to drive aspect of this HR-V. In the end, the HR-V is a pretty fun crossover to drive, but the drivetrain combination kind of takes the steam out of it. If there was a manual transmission or a turbocharger or maybe 60 more horsepower in the engine bay, this would really be something. Overall, I like the redesigned HR-V. Visually, it looks a lot better than the old one. It looks more athletic and utilitarian. Inside, the tech upgrades and the new interior design make this car look and feel more expensive than it is. And as long as you're not in a rush, it's actually not a bad drive. I want to hear your thoughts on this, so please leave your comments down below. And just like earlier, if you've learned something or found this video enjoyable, please consider hitting that like, subscribe, and that notification bell so that you can be notified anytime we make a new video. Let's wrap it up right there. This is the 2023 Honda HR-V. This is the EXL trim with all-wheel drive. My name's Hanson, and I'll see you in the next one.